All right, well, good morning or afternoon, depending on where you may be. Thank you for standing by and welcome to today's Channel Focus Community webinar. Our topic for today is Key Trends in the Channel for 2016, the survey results. All phone lines are currently in a listen-only mode, and later there will be a question and answer session with additional instructions being given at that time. You may ask a question at any time using the chat window located in the control panel, and all questions will be answered at the end of the presentation with the rest of the Q&A. Today's session is being recorded, and everyone will get a copy of the recording and slides following the call. Now I'd like to introduce today's speaker. Rod Baptie has been involved with high-tech since 1984. Rod was responsible for the successful launch of over 20 major technology companies into the European market. In 1993, Rod launched Baptie & Company, which grew rapidly to become the largest company in the world owning and organizing conferences addressing the key channel sales and marketing issues for senior executives in the technology and telecom industries. In a radical departure in 2005, Baptie & Company launched their first business-to-business community. Since this time, the community business has grown rapidly. A popular speaker at conferences and seminars worldwide, Rod is recognized as one of the leading thinkers of the channels in the IT and telecom industries. Rod, please take it away.
Okay, thanks very much, Sam. And firstly, I'll start with an apology for anyone who logged on last week when we had the audio issues. There was a system outage with the webinar vendor. Unfortunately, as we all know, we're all in technology, these things happen, but I sincerely apologize for that. But hopefully today everything will go off really smoothly and we'll be very, very cool. So this is research conducted prior to and after the Channel Focus event in April. We had over 120 people finally completing the research, so these are really solid results reflecting where the major companies in the industry are. I'm going to run through the charts, also provide a commentary on those. I think there are some very, very interesting directions that are being described. This first chart just talks about the kinds of organizations who completed the survey. But let's get into the meat of it. What are we doing? How are things changing? What's actually happening? And one of the first things we asked is about the number of channel partner programs we were offering. And one of the interesting things is that this year there's been a significant increase in the number of companies who are offering more programs. I hope that's because we're offering cloud-related programs and just not offering more programs around the same offerings. And the reason I say that is partners are constantly telling us that they want fewer programs and they want simpler programs, and yet this research seems to indicate that we in the vendor community are headed in the opposite direction. So as I say, I hope that's related to the fact that we're all launching more and more cloud-related programs, and it's not we're saying to on-premise or cloud partners, here's yet more programs for you, because that's not what they're actually looking for at the end of the day. If we look at basically the kinds of partners who are selling our products and services, there's a very interesting breakdown here from the audience. Direct to end user, recurring revenues, direct to end user traditional model, both actually growing. So there seems to be a growth in the vendor community in terms of selling direct. So I think we need to look very carefully at this and see how this develops over the next few years. Virtually all of us sell direct to both end customers and channel partners, and you know that really hasn't changed significantly over the last 3 years. Again, we see, despite the slide 2 slides ago, we actually see sales through indirect channels increasing, not decreasing. And this has climbed slightly in 2016 over 2015, but it's a marginal increase. and it's probably means that over the last 3 years we're pretty consistent. Over 70%, just over 70% of us see sales through indirect channels increasing. A very small percentage of us see sales through indirect channels decreasing. So despite all the noise about direct, about the fact that we'll be able to sell all our cloud products and services direct to the end customer, what we seem to be saying here is the channel remains an incredibly important part of our go-to-market strategy. Interestingly, again, a slight increase year on year in terms of the number of companies who want to increase the number of channel partners they deal with, a significant drop in the number who want to reduce them. And I think that's related to the fact that companies are coming to the realization when you talk to them that it hasn't been as easy as many of us thought to encourage our existing partners to sell new cloud offerings. And consequently, there has been, albeit in a very select way, a drive by many, many companies in the industry, which I think is reflected in the survey, to bring new channel partners in, but very much the right kind of channel partners. So it's not a I want everyone come what may. It's a very, very selective process in terms of increasing the channel partners we're dealing with, but making sure that increase is exactly the right kind of channel partner. And this is very much reflected on this slide. The key goal when it comes to channel recruitment is recruit selected partners to address key market sectors. Again, I think this gels nicely with the previous slide. A huge amount of effort going into the current partner base to help them sell more effectively. And I think increasingly, as I say, with new offerings, we've now, in many cases, identified the partners who are capable of moving with those new offerings, our existing partners, and we're now beginning to focus the effort on them. One of the things that we're seeing, and I think is reflected very, very much in the survey, is companies really focusing their efforts on the partners that can deliver what they want. And so there's a lot of work gone in over the last few years in terms of identifying partner effectiveness, identifying what they're good at, and then really, really focusing in on the partners that have the potential to succeed and supplementing those with very carefully chosen new partners. A lot of people, for example, going after the ball in the cloud partner market. We're also seeing an increase in the number of companies that are selling through non-technical partners. This is particularly in the software field. Companies like CPAs, marketing and advertising agencies, etc., becoming a very important route to market for a number of software vendors. Co-op and MDF. This is really good news for all of us. Basically, over 45% of respondents to the survey say co-op and MDF will increase. That's a slight fall on 2015, but where it's if you take that with the third block, basically it's not going down. It's either remaining the same or increasing in the vast majority of cases. Less than 8% saying co-op and MDF are going to decrease in 2016. So we understand the channel's important and we're investing the right kind of funds in those channel partners. Another very interesting chart, this one, and this talks about the percentage of total sales you provide to partners as co-op and MDF. And it looks very much like we're seeing a trend, just marginal trend, but a trend upwards. Last year we were looking at an average of just over 2.5% in terms of the funds that were provided for the partners. This year that's crept up to just over 3%. Be very interesting to dig into that and find out why that increase is there. It may sound very marginal, 2.5% to just 3%, but if you look at that in overall context, we're actually talking about millions and millions of extra dollars being available in terms of co-op and MDF funds to our partners. One of the other issues everyone talks about is how much of this is unclaimed. And we're pretty good at this. If you look at this chart, okay, if you're in that 7 or 8% who see 21 to 30% of their funds unclaimed, you probably need to be looking at that quite carefully, even more so if you're in the 31 to 40% bracket. But if you look at this as a chart overall, the average is about 2% of funds overall going unclaimed by the partners, 2 to 3%. So again, it's a very, very substantial amount of money, but it looks like compared to 10 years ago when that amount was much greater, we're doing a much, much better job of allocating and managing those funds. One of the questions we asked in the survey is the popularity of programs. So have you actually got programs like? And so over 80% of the respondents, as you can see here, had a co-op and MDF program. The highest response was for deal registration. 90% of the respondents had a deal registration program in place. You then come to programs like programs to enable partner-to-partner collaboration. We're down to 40%, and just over 60% of us had a partner community program in place. Now, interestingly, 18% said they didn't have a lead gen program in place. But for anyone who's trying to encourage their organization to invest in different programs and wants to benchmark the industry, I think this is a very, very interesting chart on which programs are most prevalent amongst the major vendors. Again, looking at other programs, one of the things I think is interesting, and I think it's very, very important for the partners, and we haven't got the exact matching data, but we can see a trend. More and more companies are doing more and more to not just recruit partners, but also help their partners recruit the right staff. And over 50% of respondents said they had a program in place enabling them to do that. The other thing we had was basically an issue where the rise of companies, pretty obviously, who have programs to help partners migrate to the cloud. But again, I think a very, very interesting chart, just reflecting where the industry is, a really good benchmark in terms of where you are with your programs, how many programs you've got, and where you should be focusing efforts. And this is a question we'll be asking next year, so we can see what the trends are. As I say, we weren't asking exactly the same question in previous years, so we can't compare this, unfortunately, with previous years. One of the interesting things, and we did some work in the partner community, we're very, very hard on ourselves in terms of the effectiveness of the partner programs we provide. We've done some work, and we'll be able to do that in more detail next year, with the partners asking about the programs they're provided with. And typically, if you take these same programs, ask the partners the same question, and to rate the effectiveness of the programs on a scale of 1 to 5, partners are typically rating programs between 3.5 and 4 out of 5, whereas as you can see here, we are very, very hard on ourselves. We don't think, again, I talked about recruiting, we don't think our programs to help partners recruit the right staff are very effective. We don't think we're very good at training our partners to take advantage of social media, which I know a lot of us think are very important indeed. Indeed, the highest scoring of all of the programs listed here was partner councils, where we're almost getting to 3.5 out of 5 on average. Marginal differences year on year, but certainly I think this reflects a lot of dissatisfaction amongst us all about just what we are providing. So clearly a lot of room for improvement. And moving on to the cloud, and again, as you'd expect, where are we? We currently have extensive cloud offerings moving up and up and up. And I think we're basically seeing a settlement here in terms of those companies that are going to move extensively as far as cloud offerings are concerned, beginning to stabilize. Basically, again, this end block here, we have no plans to provide a cloud offering, again solidifying there. So I think you'll see the gentle rise and rise in columns 1 and 2, and probably a rise in column 5. Very few companies now investigating what the cloud means for our business. We've all realized what it does mean, good, bad, or indifferent. So a stabilization here, I think, in terms of exactly where we are as far as cloud strategy is concerned. One of the things we are seeing is, as far as cloud offerings are concerned, is more and more companies are seeing the rise and rise of sales through Born in the Cloud partners. If you took, again, it's not quite the same question we asked last year, but if you extrapolate that for last year, the Born in the Cloud partner column will be down around the 10% mark, and the traditional column will be much higher. So a lot of time and effort gone into recruiting and looking at what Born in the Cloud partners can actually do for us, and I fully expect that column to rise very significantly when we do the same survey in 2017. One of the other things that's been a big task for a lot of us is looking at how we pay our channel partners as far as the cloud's concerned. And what we saw originally back in 2014 was a substantial number of companies moving to paid in perpetuity. That dropped significantly last year, and again has risen very substantially this year. And I think what's happening is a lot of companies, and I think it'll be very interesting what happens here in column 2, a lot of companies moved away from paying in perpetuity to paying for a fixed period of time, or paying on a reducing scale. And I think you can see this happening here, and then saw a significant decline in sales as a result, and reinstated the paid in perpetuity program. So it'll be very interesting to see for the companies here and here just what's happening. I think the paid a one-time finder's fee is a reflection of the number of companies who realize that a referral program is incredibly important to the success of their business. And so basically also, by the way, on here companies could tick more than one, which is why it doesn't add up to 100%. But I think you'll see a lot of companies implementing a referral program, which is reflected here, and I think you'll see a trend increasing to paying cloud partners commission in perpetuity. I rather suspect that this column is going to drop substantially next year, but that's me speculating. It's not definitively coming out of the research. One of the very, very interesting things we've seen this year is how you pay and bill for the products and services that you provide. And a huge increase in, and again, you could offer, you could answer in more than one ways. So a huge increase in the number of companies who bill the customer and pay the partner a commission. And so what that effectively means is the partner goes in, they do a deal with the customer, it's done on your paperwork, not the partner's paperwork, you bill the customer, and then whether it's monthly, quarterly, or annually, you then pay the partner a commission. The partner doesn't have to worry about billing and collections, etc. That's handled by the vendor, and it's a very, very easy way of doing it. And this has risen and risen and risen over the last 2 or 3 years. It's almost as big as you pay the partner and the partner bills the customer, and it'll be fascinating to see how those two columns change. Your distributor bills the customer and pays the partner a commission. Last year that was almost zero, and so again the distributors stepping up and looking at ways of getting more involved and offering more value in the cloud, and one of the ways they can do that is to bill the customer on your behalf and actually pay the partner a commission. So some very, very significant changes here in the way we do business and the way in which we operate. What do you see as the primary role of distribution in 2 years' time? And as you can see, very much most of us see distribution as increasingly service orientated, though there are a significant number who are seeing that, you know, there's still room for that traditional distribution piece when you look at things overall. So a lot of distributors focusing on the distribution of cloud products and services. However, we don't view it the same way. We saw that as being very, very important last year. The number of us that think that that's the focus for distribution moving forward has dropped substantially, though we do see an increase in distributors providing cloud services. So I think we're still really, really struggling with, you know, what exactly is the role of distribution and what will be the role of distribution as we move forward. We'll be putting copies of this up on the site, so the survey will be available. I've pretty much blitzed through this very quickly today, so I don't know if anyone has any questions they'd like to fire across.
One question that came up, Rod, kind of early was, when you say programs, do you mean with a capital P, for example, the overall program that at a vendor level, or a little p, like a point marketing program on a product?
Program at a vendor level was very much what we were looking for here.
Great.
Any other questions, anyone? And as I say, I did go through that very, very quickly. Be happy to answer questions following the webinar or following the receipt of the slide deck, which will be available to everyone, and you know, answer any questions you have from there.
Nope, I think that looks pretty good, Rod. I think we're all set here. So Thank you very much, Rod, for going through all this and sharing that expertise and this information.
Excellent. Well, thanks everyone who joined the call, and once again, apologies for the issues we had last week. I hope this has been helpful, and very much look forward to receiving any comments or questions once you get the detailed slides.
All right. Well, thank you again, Rod. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, for attending. And please do take a few moments to fill out your post-event survey on your way out. We love hearing everyone's input and use it to improve our future events. But this concludes today's conference, and have a wonderful day.